Welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be reviewing Samurai Jack on Blu-ray Season 1, and I had forgotten how good Samurai Jack was. Now, before we jump into this review, if you want to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as the cheeky notification bell to be notified when more videos drop. I'm forgetting how to open and close videos at the moment. What? Anyway, I thought I would talk about Samurai Jack, and yeah, let's jump straight into it. Now, this is from Manga Entertainment. Link is going to be in the description down below of where you can get this, and I highly recommend that you do. There you go, review over. No, I'm joking. So, Samurai Jack, I had completely forgotten how different it was compared to shows that came out around about that time. Cartoon Network was mainly for showing like Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Lab, and Samurai Jack was completely different. And from what I used to remember, Samurai Jack used to be stuff like he's walking to get to a coup, and that's particularly it. But I didn't realize how much music they used for large segments of the show, or if they did it for majority of all the episodes, or the one episode or something like that. And this really kind of added to it. So I'd never seen the opening or the first ever episode. I generally just thought that Jack was a samurai, he was fighting a coup, and that was particularly it. And that was it. I thought he was just wandering around in the future. But the first episode pretty much doesn't have much dialogue in it at all. It's all pretty much music and literally a backstory to Jack, so you don't have to go back to any of this like much later on. It's literally bam, here's what you see Jack growing up, this is what you see him training for, this is what you see him with all his friends. You know, he goes around the world learning everything until he comes back, gets the sword, frees his father, and then actually gets in and fights a coup, and then gets like shot into the future, which again gave me much more of a Blade Runner type cyberpunk feel. And you know, it's really interesting seeing this, because when looking at the story of Samurai Jack, it's much more different than I thought it would be. I thought it would be something different, and I was just really kind of impressed with all of this. It was nice seeing that Cartoon Network actually went outside their bubble. There's a part where Jack, and this is completely off script, but there's a part where Jack goes to a club. Now, normally back then, you may have seen some flashy lights in like I don't want to say cages, but like kind of the podiums and dance boxes, and you actually have girls dancing in it. And I know they're aliens, but this back then I was like, holy crap, they've put this around. This is something very, very different. But what I also really liked about this was the different kind of like editing things. So it's not just like a generic like animation, it's more kind of like, you know, you'd have different camera angles, you'd have different things, and this worked perfectly. You know, it was also very heavily inspired by Japan, like Japanese battle tactics. So Jack meets like these dogs, which again, like some of these characters that I've seen in it were actually very reminiscent of characters that we've seen previously in other shows. Like you have the dog, like you had it from like say Powerpuff Girls, you have this one dog, and then later on where Jack meets the female version of Aku, or Aku being a female, it reminded me much of like say the Powerpuff Girls, where you had that one character that wanted to seduce Professor Plutonium, and she had snakes for hairs or something. I think it was like Medusa or something like that, or a range. If you know, let me know down below in the comments. Now, at the very beginning, I found that Jack's dad was very quiet, so I assumed that most of the series was very quiet and was something different, and that kind of annoyed me to the part where I was like, I don't want this. Do I have to turn my TV up to a very high level just to hear how Jack says stuff? But then at times it'd be too loud, because then you'd hear like the swords like clipping and attacking, and you just kind of think, oh, just pick a volume so we know exactly what it is. So that to me was a very thing that kind of threw this out to quite a few things where I was just like, it's kind of ruining it for me, but it's kind of not at the same time. Now, at the very beginning, you see Aku taking over Japan, and that's where Jack has to travel the world when he's a kid, and he is he trains, and you don't see much of the kind of damage that goes around with this. Like, I generally thought Aku would have taken over the world quite quickly, but then I was kind of like maybe it would take time. So obviously I was like, oh, okay, I'll give this a bit of a go. I'll wait till like Jack goes to the future and so on and so on. Season 1 is roughly around about 5 hours long. So I see the potential in season 1. Now there's quite a few seasons which we'll be reviewing over time. But in general, I thought this was a good step. It stepped out of Cartoon Network's comfort zone, I think, a lot, because a lot of the time it would be the same thing, but I forgot how good animation was back then compared to what I've seen now. And I really kind of wish we had those kind of stories being told across all mediums, especially with Samurai Jack, as well as like Powerpuff Girls and stuff like that. Now in episode 2 we get kind of more of the dog story and how Jack has to work. And I really love the fact that because Jack's so new to this world, it's not the same particular thing. It's just a bit kind of, how do I say it? It shows like Jack not knowing anything, and everyone knows that this is what you do. Like you can get into a flying car and you can be across to the other end of the world very quickly. And I love seeing Jack's responses to this. It just wasn't I'm in the future, I know everything right now. I know that there is a problem. I do not know how to kind of work this. I am scared. And you all saw it in his facial features and stuff. And you saw it at the bar where he was scared, but then he kind of realized. And rather than attacking, because there's a big, I think it's it's episode 2 still, where there's a big massive fight scene at the bar. And Jack's like, I'm really sorry. I'm new in town. I don't understand this. I like the fact that Jack showed a lot of kind of respect to everyone. People were different, aliens. He wasn't used to this, and he must have been scared. Now, considering, like, imagine like you are right now, and you get thrown into the future, 10,000 years, 20,000 years. You're gonna be like, what the hell? There's an alien, and people are normal with this. But then you're like, what the hell? You either would literally freak out, run away, or you turn around and go, actually, I'm going to see what happens. And this is what I generally really liked about it, because Jack had a lot of respect, and it shows that he was brought up properly, as well as he's trained with so many different people that he's earned this, and that's the way. He's just not a massive prick. Now, in this, I think the second episode, or it might be the third one now, where again, as I mentioned, they used a lot of music, they used a lot of sound effects, and this again was so nice because it's a bit of a palate cleanser. It's not the same as the rest. It's not the same as other cartoons. It just felt like you knew what emotion was kind of really put into this, but you also know a lot of time and research would go straight into looking at how sound design works, and you see it and it pays off. The emotion, you'll have this song, music playing, these sound effects, explosions, you know exactly what sort of sound it is. The sword hitting metal, it all played in so perfectly with this. And I don't know why Cartoon Network hasn't actually brought a show out again like this, or use that sort of mentality when it came to designing these sorts of shows. One thing is I noticed is the backgrounds are completely different as well. So it looks like they're drawn separately. They're drawn like it would come from a Japanese like scroll or something like that. It's the old sort of way for, how do I say, like, it's the very like old way of drawing, and I like that it showed contrast, like before and after, right? It's not all the same, it's not the samey thing, and that I thought was absolutely perfect in this. And again, it gave Samurai Jack a huge boost, so I can't wait to look at the other seasons and see how that kind of works out, because I think in general that would be a really cool thing to see. Now, with some of the shots I mentioned, you see it multiple times. So if Jack's attacking someone and he's cut through his sword, you'll see it from different angles at times, which was kind of unique, but at times it did annoy the crap out of me, where I was like, I don't particularly like this, but they use it time. Now, either they used it so you had time to kind of like adjust, or they wanted to use this so they could continue on with the story and be like, well, we got to fill 22 minutes, we have at least 18 minutes, so let's make this added extras, put it in. And although it was nice, it generally did kind of really irritate me at the same time. I do think that Samurai Jack was at the time like the pinnacle of animation. I think that it stood out a lot more, and it kind of reminds me at times like some Pixar films where I don't know if it's Inside Out or if it's something else, where they had these like different animations or different drawings at the very beginning, not the 3D models obviously, But I really like this, and I love the fact that it took either they were the first ones to start it, or they took inspiration. The Wandering Samurai, when he came to different villages of different nations or what he wanted, I believe that they showed a lot of respect in this. So there's one where he meets the female version of Aku, and I love that episode because you saw how everyone was. You saw how that it was treated with respect. That was perfect. The way that he interacted or walked by certain people selling stuff at stalls, great. Really liked that. Thought it was fantastic. These are the things that I generally like that makes this more of a special cartoon rather than just the random samurai attacking and going for it. But I will say that it did get boring. There are some parts of it where you're like, oh, why am I watching this? What is wrong with it? Like, I want it to conclude. I want him to get to the next episode. I want him to get to do this. And I feel like that's kind of important because it shows that it's not just all action or it's all good parts. There are bad parts in this that make you kind of go, oh, I'm so bored of this. I think mainly I saw it in his training at the very beginning in the first episode. Maybe it's because I wasn't used to seeing music or hearing music being used and sound effects a lot more than dialogue. That kind of added in, but I did feel that at times this was a bit boring, and I feel like I could have skipped ahead quite a bit just to get to the end to know, but I wanted that kind of build up as I kind of went through this. Kind of wrapping this up, would I recommend this? Yes. I think that the animation style, the music, the sound effects all work really kind of well. I think that it makes it stand out more than some of the properties that Cartoon Network had back in the day. And this is what I generally really liked. I liked something that kind of took me out of what I'm kind of used to and introduced me to something kind of different. I do feel like the show was a bit boring at times, like it was a little bit too slow. So I know that I couldn't binge watch this all the way through, but I could watch, like, say, like a few episodes and then be okay, but then I could come back and I could take a break from it, but then I could enjoy it. I feel like it does have a to B point, but you can kind of like tune in out and about, so you don't have to watch it all in one go, or maybe possibly watching it in order. So there was kind of a few things on that one. I think the Blu-ray quality is really nice. It's sharp, it brings a bit out. So obviously they've kind of adjusted it since it originally came out on DVD years and years and years ago, pretty much when I was in college. I can't believe it's been that long, but still I liked what I saw. I'm interested to see how they do it with the rest of the seasons, because I kind of jumped in and out. I knew of it, but I didn't watch all of it. So I am kind of excited to watch Samurai Jack and see how cartoons back then kind of like made it now. Like, I know now that sort of stuff wouldn't work, and you know, it would get shut down quite a bit. So it's nice to see cartoons very like that back in the day. It would be completely different now, should I say. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. What are your thoughts on this? Do you like this? Do you like Samurai Jack? Are you a big fan? Have you got it on DVD? Is anything changed? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you like this sort of content and you want to see more, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as that cheeky notification bell to be notified when more videos drop. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.